So yesterday might have been a little bit of a trip for Black Ops 4 players. Depending on what mode you were into the most, you might have been thoroughly surprised with how much content came or slightly disappointed. Update 1.14 brought with it a blackout update. The most notable change of that was the map itself. It ended up getting a spring update that made it way more vibrant, way more green and lush and colorful. And then we also ended up seeing a bunch of different changes on a smaller scale being added in, like the SUVs as well as the muscle cars being added into regular gameplay of solos, duos, and quads. The hardcore game mode coming in with that. We also saw on the zombies front that Alcatraz was added in as that brand new gauntlet for zombies. And then on MP, we ended up seeing the map Contraband Hurricane added in, as well as Stockpile, which is Fracture from Black Ops 3. And that was about it. We didn't really have what everybody thought of a Shamrock and Awe special event in the Contraband stream. No mini event there of 15 to 20 items, and it caught a lot of people off guard. While initially, like many other people, I was frustrated we didn't get something like that for my MP friends, even though I play a lot of Blackout and I don't necessarily care too much about the Contraband stream items. It was something that I know a lot of people were expecting and were looking out for. And especially given the fact that we had some things in the game files that wouldn't make sense to hold out for them all that much, I admittedly kind of jumped the gun. So I know a lot of people, especially based over on Twitter, wanted to hear my thoughts and opinions on the lack thereof of this Contraband stream, but I didn't want to jump into it without a level head and make something that would be an emotional-based, irrational video. I wanted to make something that would give you the facts, make sense logically, so you could then end up deciphering your own opinions here out of this. And I think that having sat back on those and tried to make sense of the whole situation, I think that I might have. I think that we might have an answer here to this and some understanding as to why we didn't get a stream and when we can actually see it, because I do think the stream is definitely coming, and I think I can convince you as to why. The date may be subject to change, but the logic and reasoning behind it still stands. So let's get into it. Firstly, let's understand as to why there might be some discrepancy and why people may be immediately jumping to what the heck is going on. For MP, sure, we ended up getting a free map or a free map variation, which is the first one since late November, and a game mode, but compared to all the other things in terms of, say, Blackout, it seems like the focus was shifted. We didn't have as much attention on MP, which is still where the primary numbers lie in terms of that player base. So to end up having an event branded as free, with only giving us a free emote and a calling card, and then throwing in a $20 bundle that was labeled Shamrock and Awe, well, you can understand where that frustration comes from, which, funnily enough, that actually isn't labeled Shamrock and Awe anymore. It's now called the Luck of the Irish bundle, so that plays into even further what we'll be talking about with this. But the misunderstanding comes with the use of the word event, because by all accounts, everything that we've seen so far in terms of events within Black Ops 4 outside of operations is that we've seen the Barbarians event, the Christmas event, the Halloween event. It's natural to see that with that correlation of the word event, we see a mini stream of content, about 15 to 20 tiers, come along with it. But Shamrock and Awe, the event, did not. But here's why. Here's why I think, at least. It comes down to balance, and that's going to sound very weird up front, so bear with me. It will make sense over the course of this video, and we'll understand a little bit further as we dissect everything else. But when you take a look at the other events, they were up front. The difference, though, in between the Halloween and the Christmas event and the Barbarians event, and inevitably what will be this next event, is the change in how those event streams were handled. The Barbarians event changed how we saw the introduction of these items because it introduced something that was actually worthwhile. The Cap 45, though a secondary, changed the way that we'd approach this because it was something substantial and worth the grind, even if it was just 15 to 20 tiers in as compared to 100. It was a worthwhile thing compared to other emotes and calling cards that I would never ever use from the Halloween and Christmas event. I couldn't tell you the last time I touched any of those face paints, any of those emotes, any of those calling cards, you name it, that we got from it. I don't think that I've touched any of those. With the Cap 45, I have. And this was done directly so to keep players involved in the game. It wasn't too top heavy like how we had seen with the Halloween and Christmas events, because the Halloween event came one day, if I'm not mistaken, after the Operation First Strike launched. Then the Christmas event was somewhere in that 1 day to a couple of days timetable as well for Operation Absolute Zero. But as we saw Operation Absolute Zero roll on, it introduced the Barbarians event just over that halfway point of the operation, with the event itself lasting an even 70 days and a perfect halfway point being 35 days, which incidentally also fell on on a Tuesday, that 42 days after the event launched is when the Barbarians event was introduced. So just over that halfway point, and it was introduced to keep players intrigued and wanting to take part in the event, even after that grind may have gotten boring or they may have already completed everything in their contraband stream. That event itself was staggered so that there was a reason to keep playing. So while the word event may be throwing everyone off and maybe a little more ambiguous than before, why should we expect another event with the more worthwhile content of, say, the Mini 14 sniper rifle and the demo hammer we've seen in the game files come to the game just 3 weeks after the launch of Operation Grand Heist? If there were to be multiple streams here of this, then I think that would be a little more understandable, that we'd want to see something broken up where maybe instead of one Barbarians event, we have something comparable to 2. Because we do have that demo hammer and that Mini 14 sniper, so that's the only way that I could see that maybe breaking up, that we have one now and one later, so to stagger it in thirds rather than, say, halves. But coming back to that initial point of balance, Shamrock and Awe event offered a few things, while maybe not as substantial as others, in each of the 3 main modes. We ended up having Zombies getting a brand new gauntlet. We saw that Blackout got a map update or map revision with a few smaller things thrown in the mix there as well, like those SUVs, like those stash updates, like the operator mods. And then we saw MP get a map that is a different variation of Contraband plus a brand new game mode. It's not a ton, but it is enough that it reaches its hands ever so slightly into each of the 3 main game modes. And where the balance comes back to this now is that this isn't the only time we're going to see this, and it's actually going to come again very, very soon. And this is where we can start to maybe think, well, maybe that's where this next stream comes from, and it's not necessarily the Shamrock and Awe Contraband stream, but something a little bit different. Because if you guys do recall, we do have the Blackout Redacted update coming at some point, in which we've already theorized here on the channel that that's going to introduce Alcatraz, that's going to introduce the nighttime map, that's going to introduce the brand new Zombies map, and other things that come along with that based off the promo and marketing material here with that. So when it comes down to it, we do have another title update already guaranteed to be on the 26th. The Shamrock and Awe event only lasts until then, and then again, that just matches up perfectly with the timetables of when we'd see the update 1.15 perfectly playing into a Zombies DLC map launching at that point, and everything considered. But when you take a look at it, the only thing that we don't have any idea on that would be coming with that event is multiplayer. MP would not really have much, if anything, if we ended up having that Contraband stream launch as of yesterday with Shamrock and Awe, because we'd end up having a massive Blackout update with a completely different POI, which, fun fact, it's actually teased already in the Blackout map as of the update yesterday. You can see off in the distance in the water, just north of construction site, there's a plume of smoke from the ocean, which if you take a helicopter or a boat and go out to look at it, it is without a doubt Icarus the plane from Mob of the Dead. We'd end up having a complete change in the dynamic lighting and the way the world interacts because it's going to be nighttime. We'll have an entirely brand new map for Zombies, but MP wouldn't have anything. So it comes back down to the balance, that each of the main game modes had some interaction with the update as of yesterday, but that same thing is going to happen again come the 26th. And assuming that it does, that then makes sense to come at the halfway point, because the 26th, as we've previously mentioned, is actually that halfway point of Operation Grand Heist. While it's not necessarily completely in line with the last iteration we saw of a mini stream of the Barbarians event being 1 week after, it still falls in line where it's staggered just enough that it gives players another reason to come back and experience everything else that's brand new, especially given the fact that if you're somebody that likes Zombies or Blackout, you're going to have massive additions at that point as well. Blackout is going to have that new POI be the center of focus for the second half of the event, and then Zombies is going to have a brand new map along with it. So while there are things to increase the longevity of the event on the other 2 modes, MP is definitely going to have something as well. So taking those 2 points of the halfway point, plus also a massive title update that fills out the other 2 of 3 modes, it makes sense to then have some sort of update to MP later on. Now, again, I said earlier, it's possible the date isn't confirmed to be the 26th. To me, that just makes the most sense, being that, again, it is that halfway point, and then it fills out where an update would be lacking in MP, but it is possible we end up seeing that maybe, say, later this week, next week even. But the point being, I definitely think there is still one. I think that I'm going to stick to my guns the 26th, and it's not necessarily going to be labeled Shamrock and Awe, but instead will be its own standalone thing. We already have all those different items such as the demo hammer and the Mini 14 in the game files already completed, but it is something we're just yet to see them. So that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. I want to give a little bit of clarity here with this, and again, I kind of try to think it through a little more logically here, because I figured there had to be an explanation, and I think this is probably the best one that I can give. So that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you guys see where I'm coming here with this, trying to point out where this may actually make sense in the grand scheme of things, and while we may initially be frustrated up front, it makes sense to have slight updates to everything and not all just top heavy on one and miss out on others? Do you think it's something that I may be completely off? Whatever your thoughts are, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But just wanted to share my thoughts on this whole Shamrock and Awe thing with you guys, and maybe give an understanding as to what's actually happening. So that said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below, and of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, MP, Blackout, Zombies. We got you covered with the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered. So if anything that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, that's it, out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.